Welcome back to Aladdin. Go ahead, too.
Alright. Give me the SCWRM street rat, and I will show you the way to the Cave of Wonders.
Alright then.
Go on, boy. Take nothing but the lamp, and you can return for the treasure.
Yeah, Jafar, could you hurry up? I'm dying in here! Yeah, that's a natural reference to a joke from the game, for the movie, so cool.
Far easier to steal the lamp from a street rat than from the Cave of Wonders.
Yeah, that's a good plan, I have to admit. Cave of Wonders. Yeah, if there, like, the one thing that I do prefer in the SNES game made by Capcom is the way the story is told, because the story in the Capcom game follows the movie much closer. However, I would still give David and his team a pass, considering if they had the usual 1-year development cycle. I'm pretty sure that these problems with this. Oh no, here's what happens when you die.
Okay.
Probably actually should address the bout actually between this and the SNES version.
It's one of those things where you, Shiroi, where you can tell this wasn't done by the Earthworm Jim team, because in Earthworm Jim, when you die, you also have a funny animation.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure if they had a 1-year development to, properly include cutscenes like they intended to, the story would have flown a lot better. So I'm going to give them a get out of jail free card on this one, especially considering how literally every other aspect of the game is stellar. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Capcom game is a fine enough game, but it's the problem. It's just fine to me. Because a lot of times, for example, compared to this one, for example, this game, instead of just being just a straight-up platformer like the Capcom game, this is more like an intense action game that has a lot of set pieces, as we're going to see in the level after this. Which, in being an action-adventure game, fits the source material that this is based on a lot more than just being a straight-up platformer. Whereas in the Aladdin, for example, comparing the Cave of Wonders level that we're doing right now with the Cave of Wonders level in the SNES game, the Cave of Wonders level in the SNES game is slow and boring. Like for example, to get over the water, you need to jump on a platform, and then you have to wait until the platform gets to the other side so you can jump. Like, it's typical blocky SNES platforming, and that's and don't get me wrong, it's fine, but compared to the much more exciting set pieces that this game offers, and like I said, offering a more action-driven game like this is, again, much more representative of the movie itself. So I still find this game overall more fun to play than the SNES one. Again, the SNES game is fine on its own merits. It's just that I think this one does a better job in representing the spirit of the movie. Even though it doesn't tell the story as well, the gameplay itself represents the spirit of the movie better, to me, at least.
Yes, Jova?
If it were me, what I would have done was have a perfect fusion of both this and the SNES version.
Well, obviously, in an ideal world, we would have that, but yeah.
Because the SNES version does have a lot of cool quirks itself. But yeah, okay, first off, there's one thing, a lot of people do agree that, the hitbox detection on the SNES version is a bit better than this one. But, that's not really big potatoes for me. That is to note, though, this game is really hard. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. You gotta have pretty quick reaction time.
Fortunately, even David apparently realized this, which is why he always put cheat modes in his games.
Yeah, although wasn't this back when cheat modes weren't exactly as, well known?
Accessible.
Oh, actually they were. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but back in the day, video game magazines here in my country always had a section of cheats where they will always include various cheats for games out there. That's how I figured out the cheats for this game.
Some of them, for me, yes, but it wasn't
always.
everywhere. And
oh, really?
We were relegated to minor. Those, they were kind of similar to the...
and here you go. Here's a little liberty we took from the source material. The lamp actually has a guardian protecting it,
who looks like one of the gargoyles from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So all the more fun in beating it up.
Well, it's typical in fantasy fiction for a big treasure to be guarded by some kind of spirit. So this is
I'm perfectly fine with it.
For the sake of having an extra boss, I'm fine with it.
Basically, the gist is like, well, he'll warp to either side, so basically hit him before he hits you.
Yeah. But anyway, here's I'll explain how the health bar works. Basically, in the top left corner, you have the lamp with the smoke there. Every time you get hurt, the smoke gets smaller and smaller, and if you run out of smoke, you die. That's the basic gist of it. Also another thing, the carpet. The carpet is scripted in every level except the rug ride level, which is a level that's dedicated entirely to the rug, which again is basically a great representation of the escape from the Cave of Wonders section in the movie.
Oh, yeah. Although, okay, that's another point of contention. Some people prefer the rug ride escape from the Cave of Wonders in this version, while others do prefer the rug ride version in the Capcom version.
The Capcom one is easier, but as a result, it's kind of boring. I don't know. Like, I feel like the more action-packed, fast-paced version of this one is much more fitting.
It really does bend down to preferences. As for me, I personally prefer the Genesis version myself because, well, okay, the SNES
like I said, more representative
not,
of the actual movie.
The SNES version has a weird take on the soundtrack, in like, well, it sort of represents the tunes from the movie, but not completely.
Not all. This game is the one that has all of the songs. And I do mean all of the songs. Whereas the SNES one only has Friend Like Me, Prince Ali, I think. Actually, no, One Jump Ahead, and The Whole New World.
Actually, I don't even think SNES version has.
It has one of the two Aladdin songs, either Prince Ali or One Jump Ahead. I forgot which one it is. And aside from that one, it has Friend Like Me and A Whole New World. This one has all 6 songs from the movie.
It depends. When I played the SNES version, I played it on the Game Boy Advance. You know, there was a Game Boy Advance.
Oh, that's just the same thing. It's but it's the same game, if I remember correctly. So.
Oh, exactly. So I was wondering if maybe it might not have included the One Jump Ahead.
Nah, I'm pretty sure the GBA version was just a straight up port. I don't think they added anything.
Let me check.
I literally do not remember One Jump Ahead. Okay. Actually,
if it's not One Jump Ahead, it's Prince Ali, one of the two. I forgot which one it was.
Wait. I guess
I don't play the SNES one often because this is the one I grew up with, and I generally find this game more fun to play. Not to mention more variety, considering you can even play as a Boo, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, this particular cave level is way harder, this particular Boo level is way harder. So, anyway, what I was saying was, infidels, you have touched the forbidden treasure. Now. You will never again see the light of day. There you go. Dialogue literally copy-pasted from the movie script. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Alright, The Escape. Alright, in the SNES game, The Escape is done through a carpet level that is a bit more slower. Here's another thing, by the way. I love Tommy Tallarico, and his music for these sections where we're escaping the Cave of Wonders are awesome. Yeah. The music in the escape section of this sounds like circus music and kind of sounds really unfitting for the situation, if you ask me.
Yes.
I wouldn't say it sounds like circus music, but I will definitely agree that I prefer the original tracks in this game as opposed to the original tracks in the SNES.
Like I said, the more intense action-heavy tone just fits the movie a lot better than just straight-up generic platforming stuff.
I guess if there's one credit I will give to the Capcom version, though, it does actually pay more respect to Aladdin's acrobatic skills, whereas this one is, well, he's good with a sword, but not really much acrobatics.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Kind of a shame.
Yeah, that's another thing, and I think the Console Wars comparison video for the two games made it very clear. Don't get me wrong, throwing apples in both games is fun, but let's face it, slashing up enemies with your sword, that's way more fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jova, for context, the port was for the Game Boy Color, not the Game Boy Advance. It was done by Crawfish Interactive.
Weird, because I literally have a copy on the game.
I think there was a GBA port as well, though, too. Let me just double check.
It has to be something else because it's not listed here.
Really? I could have sworn there was. Yeah.
Let me check.
Yeah, there is one for the Game Boy Advance. That is, unless they changed.
Oh yeah, here we go. There is two. I'm checking it right now.
Maybe it's the Capcom one.
It's the
sorry. The port of the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about. Yeah.
My bad.
Oh,
the Game Boy Color was the Genesis one.
I think that was the Genesis one.
The GBA version was still ported.
And by the way, I would like to remind everybody.
My bad.
I would like to remind everybody. and I think Dan from Console Wars did a good job pointing that out. This is the cover of the SNES game. For those in the audience, just Google SNES Aladdin cover. You should be able to find it on Google Images. It shows Aladdin with a sword. For the record, Aladdin does not use a sword in the SNES game, so
What was the cover for the Genesis version? I'm wondering.
a bit of false advertising on their part.
I'm curious. What was the cover for the Genesis one? Because wouldn't it be funny if
it was Aladdin with a sword and about to strike at Jafar, which fits. If you ask me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more. It actually, it was more stylized.
I am aware, and by the way, and for the record, everybody, yes, I am aware that Aladdin only used the sword at the climax. However, this is a video game. If it's for the sake of making the gameplay more fun,
not just that, it became integral part of the character. I think he uses more in the TV series and in the Kingdom Hearts games as well.
Oh, absolutely, so. Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm. Again, I want to stress this again. The Capcom game is fine on its own. It's just that I find this game much more representative of the movie. And it has more music from the movie, and I think it's more fun to play. Anyway, this here, the Rug Ride level from the Genesis version. Again, like I said, this is a really cool level because, yeah, there you go. Basically, and by the way, Jova, it's much better than the Ostrich section from The Lion King. It's Flamingo. Yeah, this is basically the same concept. However, it's done much better because, one, you don't die mysteriously because of horrible hitbox detection. Let's just say when we get to the Lion King game, everybody, there's a lot of bullshit in that. Nobody liked that Flamingo section for good reasons. Let's just say.
God help me, I'm doing the SNES version. It's even worse.
Which is cropped because it's even harder to see. Anyway. Yeah, basically, just like in the movie, there's a big lava wave coming towards Aladdin, so yeah.
Holy cow, that's one of the longest running waves I've ever seen!
Now I'm using the exact same strategy I used as a kid. Because this level goes way fast, I consistently pause the game so I can, see things better, because this level goes by so fast that I have to pause the game so I can properly, figure out, okay, hold on, he's putting up now.
Maybe I just have quicker reaction time, but I never thought
Yes, Jova, you're awesome at video games, but sadly not all of us are.
Hold on. Pedro, I'm not trying to brag.
It's been a while since Jova's been on the bragging right binge.
I'm not trying. Guys, why does everything have to be bragging rights with you Europeans?
Hold on, I actually remember what I was saying before about the cheats. The way we were handled in my country is that you get these mini books that look like pamphlet manifestos of a communist South American foreign country that looked more illegal than they should be. For some reason, selling you cheats in these mini books looked as it was like a big wrong thing.
So that was actually kind of thing in my country. I mean, we had cheats in video game magazines, but we also had mini little cheat books that you can find. Like, for example, to give you an idea, too, back in the early 2000s, there was actually a Portuguese publishing company that actually made what was called the Code Bible, which was this big ass book full of cheats for a lot of games for a lot of platforms. So making game cheats a public thing was a very strong thing in my country, so I was always aware of these things. Anyway, yeah.
Going.
Hold on. Basically, let me recap what happened. For the sake of having one more level, and the Capcom game did this as well, by the way. When Aladdin rubs the lamp in this game, the genie. This is supposed to be the Friend Like Me section, and we're even hearing the song. Great rendition, Tommy. Thank you. Where was I going? Yeah. Instead of just, doing the song part also counts as a level, where you're basically just, walking around all of the magical content that the genie has in the lamp, which is a pretty cool concept for a level. I think
there's a Sega Genesis in the background.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, this game is full of little Easter eggs for those who pay attention. Go ahead, Joe.
Anyway, going back to what I was saying before, it turned into a bout of Europeans talking about bragging rights here. I guess maybe it's just me, but I always thought that the reaction time was fine for, those things with, the hand pointing up or down. No, the thing that got me, though, was whatever was the question marks. Like, that's just dickish.
Well, obviously, that's just the final dickish thing.
I mean, question marks were dickish in the sense that they weren't fair. Like, it was either you go up or down, and if you pick wrong, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of that artificial difficulty thing that games like Echo the Dolphin had, in a sense of making the game artificially longer for the sake of having players lasting long and justify the buyout.
By the way, a lot of people might... By the way, I don't think I've told this side of the story. A lot of people might be wondering, wait, if Disney... If as far as Disney was concerned, this was the Aladdin game tie-in, why does the Capcom game exist at all? And why didn't they just, make an SNES version of this game?
Yes.
That's because at the time Capcom still had a signed contract with Disney where they were allowed to make licensed games of Disney properties, which dates back to the original DuckTales and stuff like that.
Which made sense because DuckTales was pretty much a pretty great game, so it made sense that they didn't want to skimp Capcom. How funny that later Disney would kind of be part of the reason that Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite would suck, but that's a completely different tale.
Mm-hmm.
Good, sorry, Pedro.
So we're platforming on genie hands, so that's pretty cool. Again, the Capcom game, this is like one of the few things they have in common, because the Capcom game also took advantage of the Friend Like Me sequence to have a level full of wacky stuff. So.
Well, it gives the idea of having good potential for a platforming level.
Oh, yeah.
The thought process is there.
That's actually a good time for me to bring up with the soundtrack. Okay, with the SNES soundtrack, it was weird. Like, the first few chords of like the Genie World, they definitely sound like Friend Like Me, but then it sounds a little different on the later chord. Same with other tracks, like when they try doing like One Jump Ahead or like Prince Ali. It's like, well, for the first few chords it sounds like the song, but then they veer off into a tune that makes it sound like a bootleg ripoff of the tune in a sense.
The rendition in this one, however, beautiful.
Yeah. Now,
10 out of 10.
Okay, now I don't know if it's also a thing here, but in the SNES version, or at least the Game Boy Advance version I played, one little cool gimmick about this in the Capcom version is like, whenever you die, the genie faces actually react to you dying.
Go ahead.
Jova.
Free from the magic lamp, the genie helps Aladdin escape the Cave of Wonders. Within the lamp, in his possession, Aladdin races back to the Palace of Agrabah.
And
Princess Jasmine.
Yeah, and Princess Jasmine. Alright, so the next level is the Sultan's Palace, obviously.
We have to sneak in.
Basically. Which makes sense, because in the original fairy tale, if I remember correctly, Aladdin does at one point sneak into the palace.
Yes. I forgot. Obviously probably not Shire, but maybe you, Pedro. When you see the live-action Thief of Baghdad movie, it's very old. I think it was made in the 40s, I think. No. I don't blame you, it's very old, so not many actually have obviously see it. It's a bit more closer to the original source material, but yeah, that's actually what happens at the beginning. The appropriate name for Baghdad actually sneaks in the palace and then gets arrested because of it. When he sees the princess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's closer to that, even in this particular part of the game.
Alright, so yeah, basically... Yeah, Yago is one of the primary enemies in this game, and so yeah, we kill Yago a lot of times in this game. But anyway,
I love how Yago was trying to kill you during the desert level when you're helping Jafar out.
But it's not even just that, Jova. Wait till we get to Earthworm Jim after this, because as you're going to see, Tommy Tallarico is a fantastic composer, and he doesn't need to... in here, of course, like his original stuff is great as well. But in Earthworm Jim, he got to make an entirely original soundtrack, and it sounds awesome. All right, so there we go. There was a throne there. There you go.
How many Yagos are there?
Not enough.
Goodness gracious.
Can you imagine an entire room filled with Gilbert Gottfried's delicious tasty voice.
Hey, why don't we have him sing while we're at it?
Sure, why not?
I don't know. I mean, for as terrible,
I really agree. I really enjoy Gilbert Gottfried's voice for all the wrong reasons.
It's not even just that. Like I said before, Gilbert Gottfried is one of my favorite comedians, and for one very specific reason. He has a quality that is incredibly rare, and for that reason should be appreciated, in my opinion.
He has a voice that should be annoying, but
somehow comes across as funny. And I don't know how that works. It doesn't make any sense.
I can understand why some people may still find him annoying despite everything else, but I don't know. I get the funny part out of it.
I do. Not to mention, who else to play Iago? Let's face it. Who would want somebody else playing Iago? No.
We're watching you, Disney. Be careful what you do for the live-action Aladdin.
Well, it depends on the direction they go with the character. If they reinvent the character to be different, then I can accept not being Gilbert Gottfried. It depends on which direction they go with.
Yes, Joe?
I'm actually excited to see Will Smith as the genie.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, I love Will Smith, and okay, for the genie we need a charismatic actor. Well, Will Smith is one of the most charismatic actors out there, so sure.
Yeah, I mean, sure, Will Smith may have his dumb moments in film, and sometimes where he does get a bit too big for his britches, but he's still a charismatic guy who, does always mean well. In fact,
I actually didn't know he was playing the genie.
Oh yeah, that's actually one of the casting choices I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to Lion King's cast.
Oh, and guess what? Jova? In this game, we get to have a boss battle against Iago in this room.
Yep, that's right.
So that's pretty cool.
The hourglass room. Huh.
Yeah.
Why is Iago trying to kill us?
Well, he is. Well, I'm pretty sure Jafar told him to.
I don't know. You'd think Jafar would say, "Get the lamp, then kill."
Well, actually, Jova, wait till the cutscene right after this.
Oh yeah. But yeah, since we're talking about cast, I'll say this: Disney's been actually rather on the ball with their live-action adaptations lately. Starting with Cinderella.
I agree. Anyway,
with the casting decisions, sure, but in terms of plot decisions, some of them are a little less.
You're right. As someone who raged at Maleficent, I assure you, starting with Cinderella, Disney are on the ball with their live action.
Yeah,
Mulan is looking a little iffy at the moment.
Well, true. I mean, but I'm waiting to see how that'll turn out when it comes out.
Well, aside
yeah, sure.
And it says, let's talk about what's come out so far.
Maleficent aside, I hate that movie. I actually enjoyed all of them, honestly.
Yeah, like
they're
Cinderella
fine.
Was
they're decent and they're mediocre. They're decent at worst. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I thought Beauty and the Beast to some extent did some things better than the animated movie.
Yeah, there were some things that were done better. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Good work, Iago. Now that I had the lamp, nothing will prevent me from ruling all of Agrabah.
So there you go, Jova. That turns out that was Iago distracting us so that Jafar could get the lamp.
Clever.
So
wait,
yeah,
so this means that,
the Sultan's Palace now became Jafar's Palace, and I love the music track for this level.
So technically, this means that Aladdin still has his 3 wishes left, since he didn't use the wish to get out of the Cave of Wonders, and he hasn't had to use his wish to become a prince or to get rescued from drowning. So yeah, he's got 3 wishes.
Yeah, I love the visual design of this level. By the way, like the snakes in the background with the red eyes, totally fitting for the situation.
Oh yeah.
And I also love how, even though the level looks different, you can still tell it's the same architecture from the Sultan's Palace, so it literally feels like an evil version of the level we just did.
How did they did the whole ball going on the
this game
3D axis?
3D,
yeah.
This is that's just the thing, Teo. Mike Dietz was the art director and animation director of this game, and the guy knew how to use hardware. Like the guy.
I get. I don't know about programming, but for example, I know how ID Software managed to masquerade the 2D and the 3D in their games Doom and Quake. But this looks like a completely different technique.
Yeah, this game made fantastic use of the Genesis hardware.
It's a clever use of wrapping several shades of different coloring to you. Basically, think about it like this. You see how they're doing the shading with the snakes in the background? Well, they basically applied those to objects that actually can move, and voila, 3D imagery.
It's an illusion trick to give the illusion of 3D without it actually being 3D.
It's similar to how ironic considering things got basically in reverse nowadays with, for example, Arc System works using cell shade code on 3D models to give the illusions of them to be 2D actually.
Yeah.
And it
I think
actually
they did this a lot though in the 90s, really.
They were kind of the pros at it.
Alright.
There you go. Okay.
There you go.
Also, you get the palette swap of the statues.
Yeah, these are Jafar things. Like that enemy was not in the movie, but remember, as you're going to see with the game this team made right after from Jim, let's just say this team can get quite creative with what they do.
I can already tell, but I can only wonder what they do at Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim is this team because the reason David Perry left Virgin to found Shiny Entertainment was because he wanted to, be free of the constraints of licensed games and just make something completely original.
What is he doing nowadays?
He's retired at this point.
The
last thing he did, the last thing he did was be the engineer of the PlayStation Now service.
Oh.
Oh.
Yikes.
But anyway. Yeah, no, I can assure you, Jova, like, Earthworm Jim is this team having an explosion of creativity. Anyway, there you go. So, the boss battle against Jafar. Basically, you have to kill him using the apples. Don't worry, if you run out of apples, some will spawn and you can get them.
What is he trying to do? To suck you in?
Suck you in because if you touch him, you get hurt. However, if you do get hurt... however, this is only the first phase of the fight, because the second phase is him turning into a snake, obviously. And he starts throwing fire at you. So there you go. There you go.
Oh, jeez.
And by the way, yeah, and every time you touch those things, they catch on fire, so yeah, don't stand in there. So yeah, now you have to hit him with apples, while at the same time dodging the fire.
Okay, I'll give
So now the floor is lava.
Okay, I will give one credit here. I actually do prefer the final boss on the SNES Capcom version, because that one is a lot more bigger, let's just say.
It's definitely, that's like one of those rare cases where that boss was better representative of the movie.
And that's it.
This particular final boss is a bit underwhelming, I have to admit.
Everything.
And the ending is also, again, it goes back to the rushed nature of the game.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. But
the ending is just them making out while a whole new world plays. Again, if they had 6 more months to make this, I am absolutely sure that they would have added more story flavor to it. But anyway, I still have to commend David and his team for still turning out what is a fantastic product in general.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? That is sadly another thing I have to get to the SNES version. They actually do give you a carpet ride level for the night with Jasmine.
That too, yeah.
In that game. That said, though, this is still an amazing game for its time, and still is quite a marvel in gaming today.
It's a lot of fun to
final
play.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I love the game because it stands as a true masterclass on how to make a licensed game. Not just because, okay, it may not follow the story of the movie as well as the Capcom game, but it does one thing that I think is actually more preferable. It follows the spirit of the movie via the gameplay. Because I find the gameplay of this game to be much more reflective of the spirit of the movie than the gameplay of the Capcom game, which is just a slow, methodical platformer, which is fine on its own merits. It's just that the more action-packed nature of this game fits the movie a lot better. So I still find this game to be an overall better adaptation because it takes the spirit of the movie. Okay, the movie is an action-packed adventure movie. Let's make an action-packed adventure game. There you go. The animation and the visuals in general, top-notch. This team would go on to make Earthworm Jim, which also uses fantastic. For those who don't know, both this game and the Earthworm Jim games use a technique where they draw all of the animation on paper as if they were doing an animated film, and then they would compress the animation into sprites. So what you're seeing here is actual hand-drawn animation on paper, just compressed into sprites. So it's a fantastic technique that allowed for games to look amazing at the time. I mean, this game looks fantastic. Don't get me wrong, the Capcom game looks fine, but goddamn, look at these visuals. Also, Tommy Tallarico, brilliant. Like, a fantastic renditions of the movie's songs. The original stuff is great as well. And yeah, I have to compliment the incredible work that they put forward within 6 months, because the fact that they made this game in 6 months is incredibly impressive. I have no doubt in my mind that if they had a year, they would have turned out a masterful game that would have destroyed the Capcom game in every aspect. But anyway, yeah. The only real problem I have with it is... one, the final boss is underwhelming, like we already established, and the overall way the story is told is not the best. It's a bit too minimalistic for its own right. There are some details that I do enjoy, like the fact that there are some extra details that they added that are more faithful to the original fairy tale. But the overall but this is still an adaptation of the Disney movie, though. It should, and in terms of following the story from the movie, it kind of meanders a bit and doesn't do enough, whereas the Capcom game basically retells the whole thing. But again, this is still a video game and not a movie. If I wanted to watch the full story, I just watch the movie. This game does something much more important to me, which is make gameplay that perfectly reflects the spirit of the source material. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a fantastic licensed game, and it should be looked upon by current developers making licensed games as the standard. This should be, okay, this is the standard we should aim to, So, fantastic game for its time, and I still think it's a lot of fun today. Go ahead, Jova.
Yeah, this is definitely a good game, I played the SNES version first on Game Boy Advance, but this one, oh boy. This one had a lot of stuff that I was missing from the SNES one and really filled it in good. And don't get me wrong, the SNES one is still good and a lot of fun, and has some things I prefer there, but let's talk about this. This game is definitely fun. I've said that plenty of times. The music is definitely well recreated, and the new tracks are also a delight to listen to as well. It's engaging, the artwork is well rendered, it's just so lovely put together. Detriments! Okay, this game is a bit balls to the wall hard and can be a bit unfair, as is part of the course for games of this one. I'd say maybe tweak the hit detection a little bit and make things a bit more fair. And seriously, screw you for that question mark stuff there and the rug ride stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, fix that up a bit there. Now, the weird thing about the story retelling is that, the story can't seem to decide whether or not it wants to be an original take or if it actually wants to be sort of, a retelling of the tale. That's my main issue. Is it seems a bit schizophrenic in some senses. Thankfully, though, it was made in a time where game stories weren't that highly looked upon, so I can forgive it.
Not just that, but the rush nature of the game can also be served as a possible excuse, because if they had more time to polish the game, I have confidence that, because the Earthworm Jim games don't have these problems. The Earthworm Jim games don't have hit detection problems, stuff like that. So I am confident that if they had more time, those problems probably would have been ironed out. But go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a fun, good game. That's all I've really got to say.
Before we move on to Teo, I would like to also mention something, Shira, that I forgot to mention. You might remember Tommy Tallarico as one of the free composers of Sonic and the Black Knight. And you know how awesome that soundtrack was. So there you go.
I know how awesome the vocal themes were.
Well, that's I would argue the entire soundtrack
is awesome as well.
I would argue the entire soundtrack is fantastic.
It's just that I've only really listened properly to the vocal tracks.
Mm-hmm. I'll show you a bit of his stuff after this. Sure. But anyway, go ahead, Teo. Actually, Teo, you want to go first, or?
Well, I'll be quick anyway. Yeah, pretty much what you guys said, but I will add that being my first viewing of this particular version of the game, I would say that I spot the ways the game was rushed. Everybody had limited time. For example, the entire sequence at the entire weight structure at the end, it's pretty clear that it was rushed because the entire final part is basically abridged and reworked in a sense to just fit the narrative in a very short amount of time. But
yeah, like, I guess the genie was never freed when you think about it.
Yeah, also that. But also the fact that, unless the final boss is a bit underwhelming and also a question mark. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty, it's solid, sorry, and it's pretty good looking. Again, that 3D technique is what impresses me the most. Yes, there's also the Andron sprite, but again, Sega always paraded the Genesis Mega Drive for doing what Nintendo couldn't. And I do believe that technique actually is a thing that the NES and Super NES could not reach properly. So props to that.
The music, what about the music?
Well, yeah, it's what I would expect a 16-bit Genesis rendition of the songs would be, obviously. So yeah, sorry, another part, and props to them for using them in clever ways. I would agree that at the first one should have not been Prince Ali, but instead
One Jump Ahead.
Whatever, yeah, One Jump Ahead. But I guess it just works out in the end, so I don't mind.
They should have switched the tracks.
I would also, side note, I would also really commend the way that the game makes you earn. Obviously, the game is hard, but the way the game makes you earn your bonus life and continues is actually really commendable in a sense that you want to. It's the idea of getting good, but without the unfairness, in a sense that you want to have more chances up to you. You have to actually collect them, in a sense that the gems are not that hidden in the level. So if you manage to keep them and spend them wisely, you know how to bolster your chances in case a situation gets difficult. Are you a person that prefers to have a lot of lives for a try, or to have different continues for the sake of restarting from a particular checkpoint? That kind of freedom of choice is what I think it's a really good idea for a gameplay design. That's something that I really liked.
A nice job of leaving things up to the player.
But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I really like the game. Yeah, one or two hiccups, but a very solid SNES game. And like Pedro said, it could have been even better probably if the team had at least double the time.
Who knows, guys? Maybe Bluepoint will give us an amazing remake.
Go ahead, Shiro.
It was still fun, though.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Regardless.
Go ahead, Shiro.
Well, aside from the final boss being the only real issue for me, this was a lot of fun. I mean, I mentioned in the beginning that, I'm quite fond of licensed Disney games in general, especially around this time period where they were actually really, really good for the most part. The music turned out really well, and much like Sonic games, this soundtrack didn't, from what else I've heard, it didn't seem to have that usual
twang
Genesis sound.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's another thing. Talarico knew how to use this sound chip. Well, sometimes even better than some Sega games. That's.
Yeah, the Sonic series was one of the only few to avoid that as well. But
basically, folks, it's the Trimmervite of console sound chips. The Sega Genesis, the SNES, and the Game Boy Advance. If you could make stuff sound good on those, you were considered a master of video game composing.
Especially the Game Boy Advance.
Go ahead, Shiri, finish off.
But and the only other thing really is that even now, this still looks really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, everything about the art direction aged really well, and it really felt like, despite the compromises, it really felt like that they just put the movie in video game form in terms of the visuals and the feel.
That's literally what they did. Remember, they got actual Disney animators to animate everything on hand like they would in a movie, and then it got compressed into the game. Mm-hmm. That's literally what they did, actually. And they will go on to use that same technique in here from Gym games. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Alright, everybody, so that was for Aladdin. However, right after this game, this team left Virgin to found Shiny and make Earthworm Jim, so tune in for that.
So yeah.
See ya.
See you then.
See ya.